Hi, I'm Ann-Maree and welcome to The Whole Doctor. Today's video is a follow-up from last week's video on fasting and particularly intermittent fasting. So today I'm going to focus in this brief video about fasting for your body type. So there are 3 body types according to Ayurveda. So if you don't know what I'm talking about already, Ayurveda is the over 6,000-year-old science of yoga from ancient India, and it is extensively broad and it covers a huge amount of ways of healthy living, body constitution, mind constitution. Today in particular, I want to keep it really simple and not overwhelm you, and really just focus on body type specifically and your body type and how that actually can influence the style of fasting you may choose to do and the effectiveness of that fasting for your body type. So I'm not going to specifically go into each body type in detail. There is a plethora of options online of quizzes and various ways of determining your Ayurvedic dosha. Now, one thing I'll caution you on is the Ayurvedic dosha really looks at a mind-body type in its holistic form. The mind type can really get people a little bit unstuck because unfortunately in our busy world, a lot of us are not truly in our native mind type for our dosha because of the very Vata style world that we're living in. So a lot of people will inappropriately attribute their dosha to their mind state, which might be a very Vata mind state. So the 3 doshas are Vata, Kapha and Pitta, and a Vata dosha or a Vata mind state or just Vata in general energetically is very quick moving, rapid. It's associated with the elements of air and ether. So in the world that we live in right now, where we're go, everything's quick, we have shorter attention spans, it's very Vata. So the fact that you're existing in this sort of society can sometimes lead people to the false impression that they're a Vata dosha type. So I want you to try and put that aside and just focus on your actual body constitution. Now, some of you out there might think, well, this really isn't my normal body constitution. I've got a post-baby body, I've put on more weight than I expected, or maybe you've been really unwell and you're actually very depleted. So when you're trying to really determine what your true Ayurvedic dosha is, and it does change throughout your life, you want to actually focus on your healthiest state post-puberty. So it's usually in your early 20s. So if you think back to your body shape and constitution, that's going to give you more of a hint of your Ayurvedic dosha, your true Ayurvedic dosha. At this point, I'm going to have a little plug for Dr. Stephen Cabral on the Cabral Concept podcast. It's an amazing podcast, and he has a extensive background in Ayurveda amongst many other topics. Now specifically, he has 3 podcast episodes that give fantastic information around body types and actually helping you to determine your body type. So I highly recommend these. I will be listing them in the show notes. Specifically though, they are episodes 907, 914 and 922. So check those out and they will give you some guidance around this. So once you've determined which dosha you actually are, I'm going to start with Vata. So some of the doshas can be combined as well. So you might be a mixture. Some people are what we call tridoshic, so they have all 3 aspects. But we're just going to focus on the main elements of each. So you'll be predominantly 1, generally speaking, for the vast majority of us. So personally myself, I'm a Vata Pitta, but Vata is definitely probably my stronger constitution. So with Vata and fasting, what we need to be careful of is the Vata body type is very generally fine, willowy. You have problematic digestion, but you have a high metabolism. So you can actually tolerate carbohydrates really well. So you can churn through your calories really quickly because Vata is generally go, rapid moving. If I wanted to compare the doshas to automobiles, then Vata would actually be a motorcycle or a motorbike because it's small, compact. It's not something you're going to take on a long trip somewhere. It's going to get you from A to B. Acceleration speed is fantastic. So you're going to really get away at those traffic lights really quickly. And that really embodies Vata. You sort of have great get up and go, but the stamina might not quite be there. There's pros and cons to all the doshas, so don't try and pick the dosha that you want to be. So with Vata, because of the characteristics of Vata, fasting can be quite a challenge, and it can be more of a stress on a Vata dosha. So with fasting, the idea is that we want to actually be putting the body in a deep state of rest so that your natural repair mechanisms can start to step up and look at what's actually going on in the body and take care of it then and there. With Vata, because you might actually be at a higher stress state, if you've got a Vata mind type as well, then we really need to make sure that the fasting is not going to make you more stressed than you currently are. Also, you're going to be calorie depleted much more quickly because of your higher metabolism, and you have this strong need and ability to utilize carbohydrates. So your longer term energy stores are really not your go-to in your body constitution per se. So it doesn't mean you can't fast as a Vata. Fasting is fantastic for all of us. So me personally, what works really, really well for me is a 12-hour overnight fast. So I'll stop eating my dinner and I don't eat any snacks or anything like that after that if I'm being really, really good. Of course, we're all imperfect. And then I'll have my next meal at breakfast. So overnight, that's my 12-hour fast. And I have that in place pretty much every day, unless there's a special occasion or something like that. That being said, I will do a detox seasonally, and that usually includes a couple of days of fasting at the start. Now, when I say fasting, I'm still consuming water, and I still actually have herbal teas. And for me, with my detoxes, I will have a nutritional support system, such as a really, really clean all-in-one shake. So that can still be fasting. You're not really putting solid food in your body. You're still giving your body some nutritional support. Things like berries are fantastic because they're great for Vatas because they're going to give you a little bit of energy, a little bit of carbohydrate without a huge amount of sugar and calorie burden for your body. So sometimes when you're fasting, just keeping a little bit of fruit in there, such as berries, that's a really great option to help your body actually cope with fasting if you are a Vata. Now the Pittas are kind of the sports car. So I've got a little bit of Pitta in me as well. The Pittas generally have quite an athletic style of body. They tend to be broader in the shoulders, more narrow in the hips. They build muscle really, really easily. And these are the guys that are just the athletes. It comes naturally to them. They also can have quite a competitive streak in the sort of mind aspect of a Pitta. Pittas tend to overheat quite easily, so they tend to suffer a little bit in summertime. But the good thing about being Pitta is Pitta has the strongest digestion constitution. So in digestion with Ayurveda, it's about Agni, that's the fire of digestion. Pitta has a lot of that heat and fire in their body naturally. So that means that they've got great digestion. It doesn't mean they're great for fasting. Sure, they're going to tolerate fasting a lot better than a Vata is going to tolerate fasting, just because they've got what we would say a hardier constitution. So they're associated with the element of fire. So Vatas will cope with fasting for potentially longer periods of time without actually placing so much stress on their body. That should be Pitta. And finally, Kapha. So I think there's a lot of bad press out there about Kaphas. No one wants to be a Kapha, it seems, just because it is the heavier, more solid body type. It's really not a bad body type. This is actually a fantastic body type because you tend to have greater stamina. You're more stable. It's a robust body type. So when a Kapha is in balance, it's a fantastic grounded, earthy body type to be. Now, because Kaphas have a lot of stamina, they tend to be able to cope with fasting for longer periods of time as well. In fact, that's one of the strengths of Kapha. And one of the reasons that an imbalanced Kapha might start putting on weight is because they're actually eating too much, too frequently, snacking and relying on carbohydrates. Kapha doesn't actually need those food sources to a great extent. Kapha thrive really, really well on vegetables and lots of them, obviously, as well as some protein in there. So a Kapha can really happily consume salads, and that works really, really well for their constitution, keeps them balanced, and it's not too heavy on their digestion as well. So a Kapha person are the ones out there that can really do fasting quite effortlessly for maybe a few days at a time. They're going to cope with that much, much better, and it works really, really well for a Kapha constitution, which tends to be a little bit sluggish. So that's a really overall brief look at all the body types. It's a fascinating area for me. I really adore Ayurveda. Having that in parallel to my medical knowledge, it's just win-win. It's a fantastic combination, and it's really been an enjoyable time for me to really learn about my own constitution and try what works for me. So there's a huge amount of information out there. I think I'll certainly be posting some more about Ayurveda and the doshas in the future because it's such an interesting topic for me and I'm really passionate about it. So I hope that's helped you. One last thing, the Kapha, if I'm going to give a car reference, in Australia we'd call them a four-wheel drive or a more sort of robust, all-terrain kind of vehicle. I guess overseas they might be more well known as an SUV. So these are the vehicles that you take on those long road journeys. So Kapha, you're a four-wheel drive SUV, stamina, endurance, long journeys. Pitta, sports car, lots of fun, might burn out a little bit quickly, might be a little bit aggressive. And Vata, you're the speedy little motorbike, taking off really well at the lights, but then maybe not having the stamina for a longer journey. So that's a really great overview of your fasting and gives you an idea of those body types. Check out those podcasts if you're really curious to learn more. I will be linking them in the show notes. Thanks for your time.